Breaking news, the Chicago Bears are gearing up for a crucial showdown as they head west to take on the Las Vegas Raiders. Both teams enter this game with everything on the line. The Bears fought hard last week to avoid a disastrous start, clawing their way to one win on the season. Now the mission is clear: get back to .500 before the bye week. The Raiders? They're limping into this matchup after dropping 2 straight, desperate to prove they're not spiraling downward. That's what makes this game so dangerous, two teams battling to avoid falling into a hole that could define their season. But before we dive into all the latest updates and numbers you need to know, do me one quick favor: make sure you subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss breaking Bears news. Alright, let's get into it. Through 3 weeks, Chicago has shown flashes of promise. Offensively, they've put up just under 25 points per game, ranking near the top 10 in scoring. On third downs, both sides of the ball have been outstanding. That's where good teams separate themselves, and the Bears are proving they can deliver in those critical moments. The defense? Still a work in progress. Sitting near the bottom of the league in points allowed, the Bears are trying to find consistency. The silver lining is turnovers. Last week they forced 4 and gave away none, vaulting them into the top 5 in turnover margin. The Raiders, on the other hand, have been struggling to find rhythm. Their offense sits near the bottom of the league, with an offensive line that hasn't protected well and a run game that's been bottled up. Quarterback play has been shaky, leading to costly turnovers and a negative turnover margin overall. Their defense has been middle of the pack, showing strength in spurts but vulnerable when pushed. Add in injuries like offensive tackle Colton Loveland battling a hip issue, and the Raiders are walking into this matchup with some serious concerns. Both teams know the stakes: win, and momentum swings in your favor. Lose, and you're staring at a long climb back. Injury news could play a huge role in this matchup. While nothing looks overly serious, the Bears are still waiting for clarity on several key players. One name to watch is Colton Loveland, who's dealing with a hip issue. Early reports suggest it isn't expected to sideline him long-term, but his status for this week remains up in the air. On the defensive side, 2 critical starters, Kyler Gordon and TJ Edwards, are trending in the wrong direction. Neither practiced last week, and with the bye looming, it wouldn't be a surprise if the team decides to give them extra rest. That leaves the secondary dangerously thin, especially with Jalen Jones also nursing a hamstring problem. Depth will be tested. For the Raiders, the list is shorter, but still notable. Rookie tight end Michael Mayer suffered a concussion in their loss to Washington, and his availability is uncertain. He had been one of their bright spots offensively, so losing him would be a significant setback. Now, let's talk matchups. Head coach? It's hard to pick a clear winner. The Bears' Ben Johnson is still proving himself, while Pete Carroll brings years of experience and a championship pedigree. Call it even for now. At quarterback, though, the edge tilts toward Chicago. Geno Smith has been shaky, and while his stat line shows some production, much of it has come with the Raiders chasing games from behind. Caleb Williams, on the other hand, has been more efficient, smarter with the football, and adds mobility that defenses have to respect. At this moment, you'd take Caleb leading your offense without hesitation. When it comes down to it, NFL games are often decided by the quarterback battle. If Caleb Williams outperforms Geno Smith, Chicago's chances rise dramatically. Right now, the edge belongs to Caleb. He's been more efficient, more dynamic, and far more careful with the football. Geno's a veteran with ability, no doubt, but Williams is playing at a higher level heading into this matchup. Beyond the quarterbacks, the skill positions also lean in Chicago's favor. Luther Burden broke out last week with his first 100-yard game, and the wide receiver room looks deeper and more explosive than what Las Vegas has to offer. The Raiders still have Jacoby Myers, and Trey Tucker is a dangerous threat, but the Bears' top-end talent stands out. At tight end, though, the Raiders hold the advantage. Brock Bowers has quickly established himself as one of their most reliable weapons. In the trenches, the Bears' offensive line is quietly trending upward. Braxton Jones is fresh off his best performance of the season, and while Darnell Wright must cut down on penalties, he's developing into a strong piece on the edge. Add in the presence of Joe Thuney on the interior, and Chicago has a more reliable unit than Las Vegas, whose line has struggled outside of Colton Miller. Defensively, the line matchup is harder to call. The Raiders feature one of the NFL's most dominant forces in Max Crosby, a player capable of wrecking games single-handedly. But beyond Crosby, the depth isn't as strong. The Bears counter with a more balanced group overall, which makes this one a push. At linebacker, Chicago gets the nod. Even with TJ Edwards unlikely to suit up, Tremaine Edmunds is coming off one of his finest games, and Noah Sewell continues to flash as a downhill playmaker in the run game. His ability to disrupt Ashton Gentry could be a key storyline on Sunday. When it comes to the secondary, it's hard to declare a clear winner. The Raiders' defensive backs haven't exactly been locked down, but the Bears are still banged up. If Kyler Gordon were healthy, the edge might tilt toward Chicago, but given the uncertainty, this one is a push. The Bears looked sharper against Dallas, but one strong outing doesn't erase the questions that remain. Special teams? Another push. The Raiders struggled badly in Week 3, while the Bears cleaned things up and delivered a steadier performance. Still, neither unit stands out enough to give them a decisive advantage. So, with the edges pretty evenly split, it comes down to execution and the small details on game day. That's where the keys to victory come into play. For Chicago, the first key is clear: keep attacking downfield. Caleb Williams has shown dramatic improvement on deep throws, a huge step forward from last season's struggles in that area. He's been efficient, accurate, and confident pushing the ball beyond 20 yards. Even when you factor in a couple of drops, his numbers rank among the league's best in downfield passing efficiency. That vertical threat forces defenses to back off, opening lanes for the run game and the short passing attack. This is the version of the Bears' offense fans have been waiting to see: dynamic, aggressive, and willing to stretch the field. If they stick to that formula, it could be the difference between another frustrating setback and walking into the bye at an even 2-2. One play stood out above the rest last week: a 62-yard strike to Luther Burden. Caleb Williams launched it flat-footed, in stride, with pinpoint accuracy. There aren't many quarterbacks alive who can even attempt that throw, let alone complete it. And that wasn't a one-off. He's been hitting deep digs, crossing routes, and vertical shots with consistency. Even with a couple of drops earlier in the season, his downfield precision has been a massive upgrade from a year ago. Why does this matter so much? Because when you can stretch defenses vertically, it changes everything. It forces safeties back, opens running lanes, and creates room for the short and intermediate passing game. Against the Raiders, this advantage becomes even more important. Their secondary is thin, and without a true free safety, there's space to exploit double moves and layered concepts. For Caleb and this Bears receiver group, that's a green light to keep attacking deep. The second key to victory: generate pressure with 4. That's how Dallas disrupted Geno Smith last week, and it's how opponents have frustrated him all season. When defenses rush 4 and drop 7, Geno's numbers plummet. He's completing just 50% of his throws in those situations, with no touchdowns, 1 interception, and a passer rating in the 50s. Even worse, he's already been sacked 12 times without teams needing to blitz. This is where Chicago's defensive line has to rise. Last week provided glimpses of what's possible. Montez Sweat got home with multiple pressures. Gervon Dexter was disruptive in the interior with 6 pressures of his own. Even Grady Jarrett flashed, collapsing the pocket on several plays. If that group can replicate that kind of effort and collapse the pocket without blitzing, it could tilt the game heavily in the Bears' favor. The formula for beating the Raiders is clear: pressure Geno Smith with 4, keep the secondary protected, and force him into mistakes. He's already thrown 4 interceptions this season, and history says he'll give you at least 1 or 2 opportunities if you stay disciplined. The second key is stopping Trey Tucker. If you don't know his name yet, you will soon. He's lightning fast, a 4.3 speedster who can flip a game in an instant. Just last week he went off for 145 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's not a weekly Tyreek Hill-type force, but in the wrong matchup he's lethal. This is exactly the kind of receiver who's given Chicago's corners trouble before. Without Kyler Gordon, the Bears will have to shade safety help over the top to prevent those back-breaking plays. Third, win the ground game. Neither team has been impressive running the ball, but whichever side finds balance could tilt the matchup. The Raiders' Ashton Gentry is tough after contact, but hasn't been breaking free. The Bears' backs are still searching for rhythm. Controlling the trenches here could ease pressure on Caleb Williams and keep the offense ahead of the chains. Finally, start fast. If Chicago can grab an early lead, it forces Geno to press. We've seen it the past few weeks: when the Raiders fall behind, Smith takes risks that backfire. Jumping out 7-0 or 10-0 in front of a crowd that will include plenty of traveling Bears fans could flip Allegiant Stadium's energy in a heartbeat. So what's the prediction? This feels like a tight, physical matchup, but the Bears' offensive rhythm and a quietly improving defensive front give them the edge. Chicago makes just enough plays, builds momentum early, and carries it into the bye with a statement win. Final score, Bears 28, Raiders 20.